back to Resilience. I'm John Biggs. Today we have Böltken. He's the CEO of Ineratec, which is a very interesting company that's creating essentially synthetic fuels. So welcome, Tim.
Very, very nice to be here, John.
Yeah.
Pleasure to talk to you.
So tell us about these synthetic fuels. It sounds like it doesn't use petroleum-based products, or what are you guys using?
Exactly. Synthetic fuels are fossil-free products. They have been in the news and in projects in the recent years for climate reasons. So we can, for instance, produce these synthetic fuels out of clean hydrogen, carbon dioxide as an off gas. So this was like the main first wave for these synthetic fuels. Also then in this case called. But what happened in the recent years, also coming from the war in Ukraine and also with the shift in narrative on climate tech, is that these fuels present an opportunity for areas in the world where you don't have access to fossil energy to become more resilient, to become more independent, and also present an opportunity for defense forces to reduce their dependency on logistics. And this is a narrative we are now shaping. We started out as a climate tech company. We are the only e-fuel producing company in the world. So we have our commercial operating plant already up and running. And now we are creating more and more partnerships in the defense and resilience sector, such as Rheinmetall, but also with other NATO countries, with MODs from respective countries, because we see there's a huge interest in this sector.
Yeah, I can imagine there would be. So what does this mean in terms of standard logistics frameworks? Is this less? Is the fuel more dangerous? Is there a difference here? Do you have to like, I don't know, create compatible systems for the fuel?
Yeah, we don't, and that's the nice thing about it. So what we basically do is we create fuels basically out of gases or out of nothing, which are compatible with the existing infrastructure. So the first angle we looked at it was to focus on hard to abate sectors such as aviation, shipping, heavy duty transportation. So the fuels we produce is basically Jet A. We were just 2 months ago, we were qualified for 4 quality. So if we talk about aviation, it's ASTM standard fuel. For the road transportation, for the shipping, we talk about diesel. So it is fuel where you don't need to change your infrastructure and where you don't need to change your engine or your turbine. So there's no changes to that. What we do differently, though, is we are not building out big refineries, because that's also like a learning from the attacks in Russia is if you build out refineries, this is part of the critical infrastructure. So if drones get shot on you, they will be shot on the big refineries. What we do, we have developed and commercialized an ultra compact and very efficient system to convert gases into fuels, and they can be easily transported to critical infrastructure, to strategically important areas. For instance, with a collaboration with Rheinmetall, we are aiming to build up like a giga PTX system across Europe, directly at military infrastructure, but also at hospitals, wherever you need to run critical data centers, to be in the position to produce the fuel on site where you need it, and then reduce your dependency on logistics. Meaning for Europe, in the case that there's like an emergency or there's an ultimate threat, we are reducing the dependency to receive our fossil fuel from Qatar, from Saudi Arabia, from the US even. And I mean, there has been this discussion in Europe that there's a dependency on fossil fuel imports from Russia. And we have seen in the past years that it is possible to reduce these dependency.
So that's actually wild. So you would be able to bring a system out into the field and just, I don't know, shoot some hydrogen gas into it and get a fuel that's equivalent to petrol or jet fuel, right?
Yeah, it's not only a theory. We have built our Era 1 plant already in Frankfurt, Germany. So that's our first of a kind industrial commercial production plant. We are producing up to 2.5 kilotons of ASTM compliant jet fuel and diesel fuel already there for our pilot customers. We have delivered the first batches already to some European MODs that have tested and qualified our fuel. And now we are in the process of building up these partnerships. We have seen that it's working. And what we are now also testing is to open up our feedstock for the products, not only looking at hydrogen, but also looking at synthesis gas, which is coming from biomass gasifiers. So wherever you have access to either biogenic or even synthetic, like clean hydrogen feedstock, we can build up these systems and store the gases into ASTM compliant fuels. And this is a capability. It's not only like this, it's a process. Doing this, and if nations and continents are able to do this, this is a capability which will increase their resilience and their
I guess the biggest question is why hasn't this been done before at scale? Why does it take you guys coming in as a startup to do something like this?
So it's a very, very good question. Let me take a step back here. The processes are not new. So the synthesis process is 100 years old. Nazi Germany did this in World War II to produce fuel from coal. South Africa did this to produce fuel from coal. Qatar is doing this to produce fuel from natural gas. The difference is that when you have a fossil-based feedstock, it has already a high energy density, and you can bring it to one central location, and you can build out huge plants. Classical economy of scale. What's now coming into the picture that we are using more resilient feedstock, renewable feedstock, which is not available on site in large quantities. So what we basically did was we rethought chemical engineering. So our systems are more like batteries, fuel cells, electrolyzers, standardized, mass-produced, and you can bring them to the source where you have the feedstock ready. And by this, we can very cost-efficient, very in a very compact manner, convert these gases into fuel. So basically, it's something like a chemical battery. But we all know that jet fuel, jet planes, tanks, heavy duty is not running on electricity, so they need a liquid fuel, and this is what we are offering.
You had a partnership with Rheinmetall. What's the situation there?
Situation is that we have now formed the Giga PTX consortium. It's leading companies in the field of infrastructure, power, hydrogen, CO2, and us as the fuel synthesis company. And we have formed this consortium to roll out this technology. First focused in Europe to build like a resilient network of power-to-X plants in the giga scale as such, but each plant will have a capacity of 20 to 50 megawatt as such. And the core is to produce for every NATO soldier we have here on site approximately 20 to 40 liters of fuel per day.
Wow.
And this is like in peace times, you can still feed like your infrastructure. You can still bring it into conventional jet planes. Europe has also very strong mandates on this, so you are even getting like subsidies and a strong regulatory tailwinds for this. But if it's getting critical, you are not dependent on fossil fuel import. And I mean, just see the numbers. Look how fossil fuel prices even strike in military in war times. I mean, there were strong learnings from Afghanistan and also from Iraq war, how expensive at the end it is to provide like your military forces with the fuel. And the reason behind it, it's again the logistics, right? If you are in a war and people want to shoot at you, are they shooting at the soldier, or do they shoot at the tanks, at the logistics to bring the fuel? And there's many casualties responsible for the logistics. And this is something what we will decrease here with building up this resilient fuel infrastructure.
Okay, very cool. All right. I mean, when is this generally available to the rest of the world, right? When are we going to be using? When are we going to be having? When are we going to have a generator in our basements that lets us generate fuel?
So it's a numbers game, right? So the quantities we produce today at fossil fuel is immense, right? So it's $1 trillion market. So Ineratec is incorporated 10 years ago. So it took us now 10 years to build up the first commercial facility. But in Europe, and especially in Germany, this is already happening. So we shipped out the first product to our customers. It will also be in the car sector. So soon these e-fuels will be available for the customers. And what we are now doing, of course, is scaling these systems out so that ideally these climate neutral and resilient fuels are available all over the globe. We have a new project coming up in Chile. So I cannot say much about it, but in the next 2 weeks, there will be a press release. We are looking into Southeast Asia, into East Asia, and also the US is a very attractive market for it because at the end, it's a $1 trillion business, and the US will be interested to be a part of it. The nice thing about this fuel, though, is we don't need to replace the fossil fuel one-to-one. So it's a drop-in ready solution. You don't need to change the infrastructure. You don't need to change the car. You can still run your backup power unit. That's also something what we do in the AI in the data center space. We have a collaboration with Rolls-Royce, and Rolls-Royce is very interested to use our resilient fuels as a backup power for data centers. Because the only option they have today besides fossil fuel is biofuels, and biofuels are not stable. Our synthetic fuels are perfectly stable. You can store them even for a couple of years. And what will happen in the next decade is that the share of these synthetic fuels will increase with a natural phase out of utilizing fossil fuels over the next decades. Europe is a front runner there for sure, but we also don't have our own fossil fuel resources. But over the time, also when the fuels become more competitive and they reach price parity over the long haul, also with the fossil fuels, it's the perfect thing you can do.
And you're not worried that the traditional fossil fuel players are going to, I don't know, try to put you out of business?
It's a very good question. What we are currently seeing is that for sure change is happening at the fringe, right? As we see from the incumbents, from the fossil fuel players, we saw over the past years a lot of announcements. They are looking into the space, but at the end, their core business is to explore fossil sites and to deliver fossil fuels. But on the other hand, what we are seeing is we have strong collaborations with the fossil fuel sector. One of our main investors is backed by Petronas. We see that our technology is a perfect bolt-on case for the existing assets, for the existing refineries, to even produce these synthetic fuels. One example, we have delivered one of our systems to the largest Italian refinery in Sardinia, Italy. And what we are doing here is we are recycling off gases and produce again a kind of like synthetic naphtha, which again goes into plastic production. So we produce native product, but at the end it's a recycled product. And this is something where customers already today pay a good price for. And I think that this integration of our technology in existing assets will continue. And our focus will be on the climate neutral and resilient fuels. And we will see in the long term how this will play out. But the collaboration with also the fossil fuel providers is absolutely necessary. They own the infrastructure. They know how to fuel an airplane at an airport. So we are in for collaboration, and we also see that the fossil counterparts are also very much open to collaborating with us.
All right. Well, excellent. So you'll have more news coming out in the next few weeks. So we'll definitely keep our eye open for that. But this is a pretty cool solution to a pretty big problem, right?
Thank you. Yeah, it is. And it has really like a global potential and a huge impact.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Tim. This has been fascinating.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
This has been Resilience. I'm John Biggs. We'll see you next time.